Hello and welcome along to the Panto Podcast. This week it's a bit of a different episode. I've got three people, well, kind of, in this episode. Firstly, we meet the legend that is Doreen Tipton. Then I have a chat with David Tristram, who is the creator, somewhat, of, and the words of Doreen. And then finally, I meet Gill Jordan, a wonderful actress who is slightly uncomfortable with the interview, but bear with, because she does tell some wonderful stories. She does ask me at one point, don't use this, but I reassure her that it does work, and it is a lovely, lovely interview that she's giving me. Gill was very happy to include this, so please sit back and enjoy the first part of the Panto Podcast. My guest today for the Panto Podcast is Doreen Tipton. Hello, Doreen.
All right, Aidan.
How are you?
Well, you know, you're still alive.
You're looking well. So, Doreen, how did you first get approached to be in a pantomime?
Very cautiously.
How do you mean?
Well, about 12 months prior to that, I'd been written off. Not just by the job centre, but like by my insurance company. But then came the letter that changed my life, as I say.
Oh, the letter from the Grand Theatre?
Yeah. Asking me, Doreen Tipton, if I wanted to send them about 20 quid to help pay for their refurbishment. As it happens, I die. But it did give me an idea, Aidan, and I decided to turn the tables and offer to be in their panto for that very same 20 quid. The Grand Theatre said that they normally pay that much, but they asked me to pop in anyway for an audition. I had been given that precious lifeline, a chance to prove to the doubters that acting don't require any real talent, just a big Facebook following. So I went, and the rest, as I say, is hysterectomy.
And of course it was a very successful debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, folks, well, as you know, they said some really nice things, don't they? And to put the icing on the cherry, I then won the award for the best newcomer in the Great British Panto Awards in London. I believe you was there, were you?
I was.
Yeah, which was presented to me by none other than the Panto legend, Christopher Biggins. And I was thinking, could things get any better?
And could they?
No.
So was that Aladdin, the dream start, and the Panto the following year? I believe you were asked by the Grand Theatre again, weren't you?
Yeah, Jack and the Beanpole, yeah. You know, the one with the giant. I must admit that year I wasn't bothered about the party, the foul, or the fun, but I was quite interested in the food.
Well, by this time, of course, you've proven your worth.
Apparently.
So, presumably, your fee went up?
No, it went down.
And for year 3?
Well, year 3, it was Sleeping Beauty. So I thought, at last, I'm going to get that chance to play the lead. All I've got to do is fall asleep and look beautiful. And sadly, I failed on one of the criteria.
Ah, you couldn't fall asleep then?
I'm a charmer, are you? Aye, bless you.
I try.
No, it were all bad news, because that year I was joined on stage by the lovely Deborah McGee, who is quite simply, as you may well know, a wonderful human being.
Debbie is fabulous.
Oh, her even taught me a few dance moves.
Really?
I think it was the Viennese Anjay, the American Rough and the Lumbago. It also inspired me to do a bit of magic in my one-woman shows, and that's how I managed to get trapped inside Houdini's mailbag on stage. Dagger very well.
Who else have you enjoyed working with then?
Well, that same year, and this brought a little tear to my eye, I learned that I'd also be appearing with my childhood hero, Sooty.
Ah, so you're a big Sooty fan then?
Oh, Sooty had a profound effect on me when I was younger. A proper role model. I remember as a kid how much I cried inconsolably when I once lost a yellow bed sock. I was just 4 years old then. Sooty was 13. And here we was 48 years later on stage together. I could only marvel at how young he still looked. He's over 70 now, but he still looks amazing, albeit occasionally a bit jaundiced.
Was Sweep there as well then?
Yeah, Sweep was on hand. But Sooty, in my experience, and this is a true mark of a glove puppet, he's never had a bad word to say about anybody. In fact, he's never had a word to say full stop. How anybody over so many years could manage to keep such a dignified silence when they've got some bloke's hand up the bottom is beyond me, Aidan. But Sooty seems to thrive on it.
Some people do. So what's next for Doreen then? More panto at the Grand?
Now, this year the job centre got in touch and said they wanted to send me abroad.
Abroad?
Yeah, Birmingham. So I'm going to be at the wonderful Hippopotamus Theatre.
Wow, that's one of the biggest pantomimes in the country, of course.
Yeah, with some of the smallest stars.
Really?
Yeah, I'm doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Ah, sounds fun.
Yeah, it'll be good not to be the shortest person on the stage for a change. And I'm used to blokes whistling while they work. They do that a lot in the Black Country, more whistling than working usually.
So, do we finally get to hear you sing in this panto?
It's too early to say. Ask me again after lunch.
Because you had a song in your last pantomime, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a duet with the dame.
Was that scary?
Well, any close encounter with the dame is scary, ain't it? Especially in the dressing rooms. But now, I took it all in my stride. Well, I took it in his stride, to be exact.
Ever done anything like that before?
Well, I came from a very musical family, actually. My mother, by all accounts, could do wonderful things with the vicar's organ. And although I never witnessed it myself, it was the talk of the town. My surrogate father was very handy with the piper and cone, and I, of course, was classically trained on the banjo, albeit not successfully. And my kids, Trojan, Tangerine and Troll, had such melodic voices that we quickly and rightfully earned ourselves the nickname of the Von Krapp family singers. I've lost track of how many singing competitions we won. I think it was none. But we did once do very well at a prestigious music festival in Tipton, when it snowed so heavily that only 2 teams turned up. We came fourth. So as to someone like myself, who was born dyslexic in one eye, music became a great comfort.
So you say you're dyslexic. How did you learn your lines then?
I've got them all written down in a script, so I always keep that with me.
Like on a bus or in bed?
No, just on the stage. No, that's when I need them.
Right then, so another exciting pantomime year for you then?
Yeah. And for them that miss out, rest assured, I will be releasing in paperback form a copy of all the panto lines that was written for me and then censored by the producers. Unfortunately, my suggestion that we just stop kids from coming seemed to fall on deaf ears.
So what's your favourite part of the pantomime?
I don't know. I think it's just been with my fellow Pantonians, It's like one big happy family, ain't it? And after a big run, like 2 to 3 months, you start to recognise some of them and even put names to them.
And of course, some of them are quite big stars.
Yeah, which is why it's so gratifying that the producers still choose to put the faith in me, rather than somebody much more expensive.
I've always wondered, how seriously do actors take pantomime?
Oh, very. As a lifelong staunch feminist and a keen theatre historian, I'm only too aware just how few iconic major stage roles there are for women. One instantly thinks, of course, of the big 3, the defining roles that any actress worth of salt, pepper and die for: Lady Macbeth, there's Cleopatra, and Jack's mother's next door neighbour. So you can imagine how thrilled I was to be offered one of those so early on in my career. Even the late, great Elizabeth Taylor only managed 2 of them. But I now remain on course to do the hat-trick, on account of me not being dead yet.
Do any of your own family and friends come to see you?
No. I ain't got any friends.
Ah.
And as far as family goes, my youngest, Tangerine, went off travelling for a year.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. That was about 10 years ago. I have citizens, which is odd, because the bus pass must have run out by now.
You mean she doesn't keep in touch?
Not yet, no. And my eldest, Trojan, works in a big posh place down in London.
Oh, so she's done well for herself then?
Yeah. Holloway Castle, I think I called it. Who works in the library down there. Or the laundry, was one of the 2. It's one of them all-women places. which suits our trout, which has never had much luck with men. A bit like me.
I think another place you mean. So what about your third daughter?
Well, I just couldn't be asked.
Well, Doreen, it's come to that time where I ask you for your dream panto.
It's exciting, ain't it?
Isn't it? It always is. This is everybody's favourite bit, so I'd like you please to choose your dream pantomime.
Well, that'd have to be Sleeping Beauty.
So we need to choose the venue.
That'd be my bedroom.
Why's that?
Well, I wouldn't have to bother travelling, would I?
I see. And who plays Sleeping Beauty?
Me. I'd play the titular role, Sleeping Beauty.
And your cast, alive or dead?
Yeah, well, I'd prefer them alive, It's more hygienic, ain't it? You don't get the smell.
Right then. So, the cast then. Who would you like in your cast?
Well, it don't really matter, does it really? Because I'll be asleep.
Well, Doreen, it's been lovely chatting to you. Good luck with it all.
Ta. Ta-ra, Aidan.
Ta-ra, Doreen. Well, there we go. There's Doreen. What a lady. Now I speak to the actual creator and writer of Doreen, the lovely David Tristram. Well, my follow-up guest on this episode of the Panto Podcast is David Tristram, who's kind of the words, shall I say, of the lovely Doreen. How would you best describe yourself?
I probably wouldn't best describe myself, but others might call me the writer, I suppose, writer and producer.
How did the character come about?
It was an accident from a very serious corporate job I did, where I had to call Gill in as an actress to play a monologue of a woman who'd had a stroke. And she was distressed and saying that she was very grateful that she got the insurance. And we recorded it, fine, first take, and then started to get mischievous ideas about doing a spoof of it, a spoof character in similar distress for less legitimate reasons. So I wrote something, I think it was the next morning, and sent it to Gill. She came over the next day. She disappeared into the toilet and came out as Doreen, and we put it on YouTube, and within a few days it had 1 million+ hits. And we realised that the character had more life in it. So then I wrote a stage play, Doreen and Her Family, and that progressed into a series of one-woman shows. And that's where we are today.
Have you written comedy previous to that then?
Yes. I got 29 published plays before then.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were they kind of the parody or sending up type, or were they just more...
They're all comedies, different styles. Some are very spoofy, some are serious comedies, some bittersweet comedies. But yeah.
Where did you get then your inspiration from for this?
For the plays or for
the character of Doreen?
For the character of Doreen. Well, I'm a black country lad, so my roots are the same as Gill's, really, I suppose, if you go way back. And we sort of leave it behind, we go to university and we do all that sort of stuff. And then you start to get a fondness again for your roots. It's a nostalgia thing. And I remember my granny, for example, being a very black country lady, but a great sense of humour. And I think it comes back, it cycles back, and you start to feed off it again in later life.
Do you ever make reference to things that family may have said previously?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Pinch odd lines and stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You can't beat real life humour. I mean, there's a line, not in Doreen as it happens, there's been a line in one of my plays where someone says, Mr. Smith down the road, whatever his name is, has just had his leg amputated for the 3rd time. And the character responding says, "What is he, a centipede?" And that actually happened to me because someone said to me that their uncle had his leg amputated for the 3rd time, and I responded, "What is he, a centipede?" So it's just real life comedy.
How does black country humour travel then?
In a bus normally, very slowly. There's a cut-off point, I think, where if it's very hard and dense black country humour, people literally can't understand what you're saying. But we found with the Doreen videos that people abroad, certainly all over England, in certain pockets have loved it. And it's often the working class gritty areas that love it, the North East and the Liverpools and the stuff like that. They can relate to it.
So before the YouTube sensation happen then? What was the actual planning for Doreen? How did you want to break her?
Breaker. Well, the YouTube thing was pretty much the beginning of it, because it was just a joke that we did one day. That was it.
Right.
So it was only when the YouTube thing took off that we realised that there was more to the character, and people wanted to hear more from the character. So that's when we started to develop a plan, if you can call it that.
There was never really any sort of... The spoof idea started off and it just snowballed onwards.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the comments we had on the original Doreen story, as the clip was called, it wasn't just the clip, it was the fact that there were hundreds and thousands of comments, some of which were much funnier than the clip itself, and people were arguing amongst themselves about the politics of it and all the rest of it. And we had some weird interventions. I think George Bush's scriptwriter was one of the people who commented from America. It was about the politics, because some people took offence at the politics, because Doreen was supposedly she considered herself disabled effectively because she was so lazy, and people took that to heart, and some said, forget it, it's just a joke. So that spiralled into a lot of political discussion about the benefit system and all the rest of it. So we just sat back and watched it happen.
How have you found Doreen's reaction with audiences?
The audiences have been great during the performance, but I think more touchingly after the performance, because Doreen always comes out and says hello to whoever's willing to stay behind, and they queue sometimes for an hour, don't they? It's a queue right down the theatre just to get a chance to say hello and stuff. And some of the stories are very touching. They all talk about how Doreen gives them some sort of relief from the pains of their day. These are people who have sometimes working very dreary jobs and have got very difficult lives and have got disabilities and all sorts of things kicking off, and they see Doreen as a release from that, and they've said so in emails, they've said so in person. It's like the trench humour that they enjoy. It's a release, and I think that's quite touching. We've had people wanting Doreen to go and visit. In one case, it was a lady's father who was in hospice, who hadn't got long to live, and he expressed an interest, and Doreen went in to see him, and he was chuffed to bits to see her, and it's just so touching that these people reach out like that. And it surprises us, I must say, just how much they take the character to their hearts sometimes.
Does that add pressure to you, though, to try and think, crikey, I've created something now and I need to keep on top of my game doing this?
It does. You're aware of it, and then from then on you've got these people at the back of your mind thinking, we better not say that because these people think this. It does start to control you in that way, but it's lovely. It's a following that's like a hidden cult following, and it never ceases to amaze us. There was that lady from America who wrote to say that she really connected with Doreen, and she lived in, where did she live? Some industrial part of America, and she said it's amazing, that character reminds me of my roots and our roots here, which are being destroyed, she said, by political correctness, I think she said, but she connected with the Black Country character and its sort of original gritty working class humour all the way from America. And she sent us a lovely email, didn't she? A very touching email. And there's someone else coming over from America to see our lecture on the 20th who's desperate to meet Doreen. So you get some odd little stories, but they're very touching.
In the nicest possible way, you've created a monster, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Would you say this is your most successful creation?
Oh, undoubtedly. In terms of numbers and reactions, it's been an absolute phenomenon, and we still think there's plenty of places to go with it. As I said, we're looking at children's books and all the rest of it, because there's a connection which we've found with different people on different levels. Educational connection, and just a pure gut laughter level. There's kids level, there's all sorts of levels. An intellectual level when she's doing lectures. Sometimes we've got Doreen talking outside of the scope of what you'd expect for the character. Talking about Einstein's theory or something like that in relatively, excuse the pun, in relatively coherent terms.
So the latest book that's been released is Doreen Tipton, the giant pant-eater. How did that come about?
It came about because my brother is an illustrator, and we've always enjoyed playing around with different silly concepts when I wrote silly stories back in the day, and thought it'd be nice to combine illustration with some of the poetry that we've got Doreen doing. And the children's market is very interesting to us because we've had a lot of people say, my kids love Doreen. We'd never quite understood why, but they do, and it's a fact. So we thought it'd be nice to come out with something specifically for children for a change. So we've got this lovely book which is full of quirky Doreen poems and unusual creatures which we've invented. And it's called The Giant Pant-Eater and Other Curious Creatures, and each story has got a little sort of moral message built in there as well. And it's even got a little quiz at the end, so we can test if the children have been paying attention. And it's designed ideally in the old-fashioned way that parents could read the poems to the children. But of course, if they're old enough, they can read them themselves. And we'll get Doreen doing some on social media as well.
What next then for Doreen?
There's always something next for Doreen, because we found that she does actually evolve into very different characters. We've done all sorts of the character, but the next project actually is she's just about to bring out a children's book. We've just done, it's literally going to come out next week, and it's a beautifully illustrated series of poems with quirky Doreen humour, but it's all for kids.
I would never have expected that, to be fair.
Well, you'd be surprised. We've interacted with children a few times, been into schools and all the rest of it, and certain kids love Doreen. There's something about her they love, so we're going to test that out.
Do you think it's her childlike nature?
I think it's that. I think it's the accent sometimes. I think children, for example, who are black country, enjoy hearing a black country voice on the telly, as it were, in some sort of official way, which they don't get to hear on normal TV. So on YouTube they hear, if you like, they've got a little hero speaking their language, and I think they relate to that.
What about television then?
What about it?
Breaking Doreen into TV land.
Well, it's not that we haven't thought about it. We've had close encounters. I mean, the BBC at one point were taking quite an interest, or at least one person in the BBC was very high up. But persuading others and colleagues and schedules and all the rest of it to click together is quite frustrating. So what we've done is very much just gone on with it and done our own thing, hence the stage show, hence producing our own movie and all the rest of it, so people could get to see it rather than just sit around in meetings waiting for the BBC or whoever to finally push the button.
You seem to take a big interest as well in the social media aspect of it, and obviously the YouTube. Could you see yourself crowdfunding something like a movie, or making it that bit more larger scale?
We've sort of dabbled, very, very much dabbled with crowdfunding in the past. We did it on a little sort of a TV type idea. But to be honest, you have to offer people something for the crowdfunding, you know, some piece of something. So if you did it for a movie, for example, they get a free DVD or whatever. So we might as well just switch it around, do it ourselves, and then try and sell the DVDs. It's crowdfunding in reverse, in effect. If they buy the product at the end of the day, then they've crowdfunded it retrospectively. That makes sense. In other words, the complications of crowdfunding, the politics, having to please all these people, and everybody then feels they've got a say in it. It's much easier to get on, do it yourself, and put it out there and say, if you like it, buy it, and then that'll crowdfund the next project, in a sense. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, it's a bit of an older-fashioned way. I wasn't really expecting that.
I am old. What's old-fashioned about that, then?
I wouldn't say that, because crowdfunding these days, a lot of people will bid, let's say, £1,000 towards the crowdfund, but then they get a small part in the movie, or £50 and naming the credits or something like that. Would that not be something that you would consider? Not saying that I'd like a part at all, but
oh, I see. Well, let's see the colour of your money, and we'll talk about it later.
Well, you never know who's going to be listening, to be fair, because you might get a backer.
That's true. But I do enjoy the independence, and that even crowdfunding can tie you up into knots sometimes, and lead you down paths that you don't want to have to go down.
What's it like as well, hearing your words coming out of Doreen's mouth, making swathes of audiences laughing?
Well, that's the reward at the end of the day. I mean, it's a very lonely job, writing. You can sit there for hours upon hours upon hours typing. And the problem is you have no conception of what you're writing is rubbish, or is it going to make people laugh? Or you can make people laugh in your head, but will it make them laugh in real life? And it's only when you put it out there for the very first night that you get your reward. And if you've got it right and you've done the planning right, then you hear that feedback, and it's fantastic. That's why comedy is the ultimate art form for me, because the judge and jury is there, and then there's no hiding. If it's not funny, they won't laugh, and if it is, they will.
Who did you like to watch them when you were younger?
You mean on TV, comedy?
All forms of comedy, to be fair.
Going way back, then the Goons. I think that's where I got my love of the absurd and the spoof elements. So the Goon shows, which my dad listened to, I listened to as well. And then I started writing nonsense stories when I was very young, so I think that came from that. Beyond that, I don't know, a bit of Tommy Cooper thrown in now and again, some of the early heroes. But then go through the ages, the young ones, the more anarchic stuff on TV, the Rick Mail. And today, of course, nobody. No, I'm not a great fan of most modern sitcoms, basically. I think they've lost their way.
There's a gap in the market then for Doreen, isn't there?
Yeah. But until the broadcasters recognise there's a gap, they won't give you the space. So various broadcasters have dabbled with formulaic sitcoms, and I think they've just lost their way.
Have you ever wanted to perform yourself?
No, I don't crave performance, no. I feel like I'm sort of performing through the character, if you like. So if the character fails, I feel like I've failed in performance.
Has that ever happened?
Oh yeah, it always happens, but it can happen to lesser or greater degrees. We've never had a total flop, but occasionally you might get half a joke that doesn't work, or a little sequence that doesn't work as well as you'd like. And we're constantly on top of that sort of thing. We analyse it later and say, I wonder why that was. There was a comma there and there shouldn't have been, all that sort of stuff. So we do analyse it a fair bit, sometimes too much. But then you go to the next audience and they laugh the socks off at the bit that was dead the day before, so it throws your computations out a little bit.
Well, David, thank you so much for taking part in the Panto Podcast.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
So that's David, and that's how the character and creation of Doreen came about. Finally, for this rather different episode, I meet Gill. As I said, she was very happy for the interview to actually go and be broadcast, so please sit back and enjoy Gill Jordan.
Hello, Hayden. I'm going to talk like that. Shall I talk like that?
Yes, your
yes,
character.
I'm Gillian Jordan.
We'll get started. So my guest on today's Panto Podcast is Gill Jordan, or would you prefer Gillian?
Jill's fine.
Jill's fine. Hello, Jill.
Hello.
A lot of people will probably know you better as a certain character who's called Doreen, I believe.
Yes.
But you're the sort of reclusive actress behind that character creation.
I like that. Reclusive.
Is that the best way to describe it?
It is.
Do you find that character quite the release then for you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think as an actor, as a performer, performance is a release, isn't it? Because it's in your soul, and part of you wants to be out there doing that. So yeah. Was
that always from a young age?
Oh yeah.
What was your first?
From the beginning.
What was your first ever then step on the boards, shall I say?
Well, I did as quite a lot of people who want to perform did, and started with ballet lessons. You're
I can't imagine Doreen kicking her leg up.
Oh yes, darling. Yes, I wanted to be a member of the Royal Ballet at the age of 2. So ballet and tap and ballroom lessons, all that sort of stuff. And then any production I could be in from a very early age I was in, at school and various groups. So yeah, and then to drama school for 3 years.
Mum and Dad were supportive then?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Did they take you to go and see many shows when you were
Yeah,
little?
they did. And what's lovely is since being at the Grand Theatre 3 years ago, is all the memories come flooding back from childhood. And my dad worked for a big factory just outside Wolverhampton, Goodyear's tyres, and they gave all their employees a family ticket to the Panto every year. And so right from a very early age I would go to the Grand Theatre in Wolverhampton or the Hippodrome and see the Pantos, and that was wonderful to be in one, because I just imagine myself as a child watching all these stars, Danny LaRue and all the big stars, and then I was standing on that stage in a panto, and it was wonderful.
Do you still get that excitement now when you're going into the theatre?
Yeah, I do. Any theatre.
Walking through stage door, though.
Yeah, I just love theatre.
How then did comedy come into your life?
Well, I think that's got to do with the way I was brought up, and I had very funny parents and funny grandparents, and there was always a good sense of humour in the family. They would always see the funny side of everything, and still do to this day. I've never ever seen my parents without a smile on the face. Every day I see my parents and they've always got a smile on the face, and that's that's in you, isn't it?
Have you instilled that then with your own children?
Yeah, you've got to have humour in your life. Gets you through, I think.
What was it like growing up then? What were your parents like?
My parents, well, my grandmother, on my mother's side, she wanted to be a singer, classical singer, but it was kind of the religious upbringing, and it wasn't the done thing really for somebody to go into theatre. So she had her own shop. She was a milliner. She had a milliner's shop. And then my mother was a young comedian and was in a professional troupe locally. And that kind of fizzled out. Again, it wasn't the done thing at a certain age to be doing that sort of thing. And my dad was a lay preacher, Methodist lay preacher, so he was out there giving it the good black country Methodist preacher thing.
Performance as well.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful. I can't imagine what it must have been like being little and seeing your parents doing such.
It was wonderful. Always dressing up, and in fact they've just moved house. They're in their 80s now, and they've just moved out of my childhood home, and they had a loft full of dressing up clothes, which is now they're now in my shed.
When it came then to the more serious of acting, what was your kind of route into that?
Well, I guess through drama school you touch on, all genres, don't you, of theatre. And I love all sorts of theatre, all roles. So I love serious as much as I do comedy, but I'm probably better at comedy.
I can't say I've ever seen you in anything serious, but I can't imagine you in something serious, to be fair.
But I can be very serious, Hayden. Do you want me to be serious now?
We could be serious if you would like. It's ever done any Shakespeare?
Yes.
Have you?
I've done one Shakespeare play, and that was at drama school, and they cast me as Mistress Quickly in Merry Wives. And he said, yes, Gill, you can play her as a black country character. So I played Mistress Quickly as Black Country, which was fab. Very Doreen-like, actually.
Wow.
Really worked.
I'd love to have seen that. So what pantomimes then did you go and see as a child? You touched upon a bit of Danny LaRue.
Yeah, Danny LaRue, Little and Large, Cannon and Ball, all the people that you used to watch on TV. And they were there on stage, and it was fabulous to see them. And you learn from them, don't you? You learn from watching these people, the way they work, the way they perform, and I guess you pick things up. It's brilliant.
How many years then has Doreen been appearing in pantomime?
3 years at the Grand Theatre in Wolverhampton.
And did anybody take you under their wing to begin with? Because it was Kudos, wasn't it? Originally gave you the break.
Yeah.
Well, gave Doreen the break.
It was.
Was it daunting then, that very first time when she came out?
Not really, no. Because I'd been touring with the one-woman shows. And it was just, you knew that it was going to work. And it was very exciting. Very exciting. I mean, David wrote some fabulous lines, and you just couldn't wait to get out there and get on with it, really.
The double entendres then that pantomime were quite famous for. Were they a little bit?
No, really work. No, they really work. And also, it goes over the kids' heads, but a lot of the kids get it and love it. Yeah.
How have the public been then to Doreen and to you as a person?
Well, I'm not sure how they kind of look at me. I think they don't recognise me. They don't think that's Doreen Tipton. I don't get many people recognising me in the street.
It's funny, isn't it, how just a wig and kind of a sort of...
And I get, my God, you scrub up well.
It's bizarre, though. People actually think she's a real person.
Oh, they do, yeah. In fact, I find myself talking about Doreen Tipton. That Doreen Tipton.
Do you see that was still part of you? Is there a part of you in Doreen?
What a mad menopausal woman. Yes. Yeah, I mean, the kind of wry humour and deliveries, I suppose, kind of my sort of humour.
How did you discover your inner Doreen?
I had to dig very deep.
Method. Purely method.
Oh, pure method.
Did you find yourself on the sofa much, or...?
Yes. Eating crisps.
Now, where did you actually find your Doreen then?
David Tristram wrote a script. I went into a shed, grabbed a wig and a hoodie and arrived dressed in them, and then came out and became Doreen Tipton.
And that was it, the look? Just...
Yeah.
Very minimal.
Very.
And makeup?
No makeup, which is fabulous for panto.
Isn't it?
When you see the dame spending an hour doing the makeup, or 2 hours, and I just do absolutely nothing. In fact, the one year, I don't think I just wore trainers and a tracksuit.
And that was it?
Yeah.
You'd have been the envy of everybody.
I was. And they wanted to give me high heels last year, and I said, please give me some trainers. I want to be comfy on stage. It was great.
What does the family think of Doreen then? Both parents and children.
Well, Well, it's kind of what you do, isn't it? So, if you've always been involved in theatre, it's another character. But they love the character. It's when your children hear, Rosie, your mum's on the back of the bus. Because the panto's being advertised on the back of the school bus, and they take it all in the stride.
And mum and dad?
Yeah, they love coming to the pantos, and it's wonderful for them, to see the daughter, I guess, performing in one of the pantos they used to take me to see.
So for Doreen then, any challenges that in the future for her? Anything you'd like to see Doreen, or direction you'd like to see her move in?
I'd like to see Doreen Tipton have her own television series.
For families or for
anybody?
Move over Anton Deck. Saturday night on the sofa with Doreen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think she would work so well on TV. People would love her.
Do you find it difficult though, as a female in the comedy business?
No. What do you mean?
It's just in quite a male-dominated industry. To be taken seriously, or to even be allowed to break out a little bit more. You hear a lot about people who see a lot of bills, shall I say, as male-driven.
I think a lot of it's got to do with the material. The material's got to be good, solid, funny material. And I've got 100% confidence in that. And for me, as an actress, that character is full on, strong, and just so lovely and easy to play. So I have just 100% confidence in Doreen. I just don't, I would never think, it's not going to work, or it just works.
As quite the seasoned pro, do you find yourself ever getting the nerves?
No, darling, I don't. In through the nose, out through the mouth.
Lovely. But I'll wait for that dog to stop barking.
That's too old.
Don't use this, it's not good.
What?
This interview.
No, we're fine. You're coming across really well, honestly.
Biased.
No, but I think
I would never listen to it. Could never listen to it.
But you can watch Doreen.
Oh yeah, of course. Listen to Doreen till the cows come out.
And what about
I've got a right to Doreen.
But what about...
Gill Jordan hasn't got a right. Gill Jordan could say all sorts of things.
So even when you're performing in film or TV, you can watch that.
Oh yeah.
But you as yourself...
It's not me, am I? It's not me, is it? This is me. And you know what's interesting is, I guess, a lot of performers, do they know themselves?
That's quite deep.
It is.
Do you find yourself hiding behind Doreen sometimes?
No, I don't hide. I'm just a performer. Performing.
But there's part of...
being.
You're being... But what about though when you're being characters? Do you find yourself hiding behind that?
No, I don't know, because I'm... So, I know myself so well. Down to the bone, Hayden. You can't... To me, you see, you can't perform the way I perform Doreen. You can't be if you don't know yourself.
And you yourself, do you see it as a job more than once the wig's off, or once whatever role you're playing, that costume's off? Is that just back
well,
to
no, 'cause
Jill?
you're always thinking, no, not really. It's just part of your life. Yeah, it's not a job. It's part of you. It's always there. It's just always on your mind. Yeah, I mean, you switch off and you can function. You do family things, which is wonderful. But it's quite organic, really, the way we work, because we don't have a timetable as such. You know, we don't sort of look at the watch and think, right, we're off. That's it, work finished. You just it's always there.
And it's quite organic the way you do work then.
It is. Yeah, because, for instance, some of the short videos that we've put out where we've got millions of views are political. And so it has happened where I've read the news on my phone at 6 a.m, seen something and text David and said, we need to do something now. And he said, yes, I've just read it. We'll meet at 10. And I grabbed the wig, grabbed the hoodie, and I'm at the barn for 10. And it's out by 11. It's out before some people have read the headline. And that's how it works.
How does it feel to have Doreen become such a big success?
It's wonderful.
That first, when you found out you hit the milestone of 1 million views.
Yeah, I think it's every actor's dream, isn't it? To connect on such a big scale.
Globally as well.
Yeah.
Because she's quite a niche character, to be fair, in the Black Country. Some people can't understand her. Have you had many messages from across the world?
We have got people all over the world that love Doreen. I'm sure Doreen could get a world tour at some point.
I can imagine.
I love it because they say, come down to Essex, we love you. And you get down to Essex and there might be sort of three of the people that love you in the audience. They don't quite understand that you need, a theatre full of people.
How far have you taken her then in the UK?
Weston-super-Mare.
Weston?
Peterborough.
That's about it.
So you've been Weston-super-Mare, Peterborough...
And London for the awards.
For the awards, and she goes down the storm.
Yeah, she does. We need to do London.
You do need to do London. Maybe a certain pantomime company might be able to put you into a bigger scale production.
You never know, Hayden. They do at my local school. Well, I had a letter come through the post. I didn't know it was my local school, and I opened it, and it was from the local school, and they do this session with the school kids year, I don't know what year it is, year 10 or something, where they have to write to a celebrity of their choice, and they can write to anybody worldwide, and she picked Doreen Tipton because she goes to see her at the pantomime, and I had this letter saying, I love you, you're the funniest person, it's the highlight of my year, coming with my family and laughing with you. And I only lived 5 minutes away, and I thought, I must write back to this child, it's just something I've got. You're busy, aren't you, and you've got to do this. And I wrote back and I said, thank you so much for your letter, and I hand delivered it into the office, and the secretary went, thank you. And the one teacher went, oh my God, it's Doreen Tipton. And you're the lady that plays Doreen Tipton. Will you come and see the girl? And she marched me through the school. And I went in, and the girl was there doing her writing. And they said, look who's come to see you. And we had a photograph taken, and the teacher said, she made me laugh. She said, we've written all these letters for years. You're the first celebrity that's ever come into the school to meet one of the people that I only live 5 minutes away.
How lovely.
I know. But that's Panto.
Right then, Jill, well, it comes to that part of the podcast where I have to ask you your dream pantomime. So you can be in it.
Okay.
You can choose the production. You can choose the theatre. You can choose the cast, alive or deceased.
Okay, so we've got Cinderella, the Palladium. We've got Danny LaRue as the Dame. Kenneth Williams as the father. Freddie Starr as Buttons. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford as the Ugly Sisters. Doreen Tipton as the fairy godmother. Ed Sheeran as the prince. And Dolly Parton as Cinderella.
Oh,
You going to come and see it?
come and see it. I want a stake of the ticket prices. Well, Jill, thank you so much for taking part in the Panto Podcast.
Thank you.